On Thanksgiving Day 1984, 11 people sat down to dinner at the Shepherd's Valley Ranch in remote Wyoming. By sunrise the next morning, all of them were dead, poisoned at the table, shot in their beds, killed by the man who carved the turkey. For 15 years, Marcus Holloway's wife had been sleeping with his ranch foreman. When he finally discovered the truth, he didn't file for divorce, he planned a massacre. And he recorded every word of his confession before the police even knew what happened. This is the story of the deadliest Thanksgiving in American history. Friday, November 23rd, 1984, 9:15 in the morning. Deputy Sheriff Maria Gonzalez was making her routine patrol through Carbon County, Wyoming. Population 21,000 souls spread across 7,900 square miles. Out here, routine meant driving 200 miles, checking on ranches, looking for stranded motorists, making sure the vast emptiness hadn't swallowed anyone whole. The Shepherd's Valley Ranch sat 43 miles southeast of Rawlins, accessible only by a 12-mile dirt road that branched off Highway 287. The Holloway family had owned the land for 3 generations, 5,000 acres of high desert scrubland where they ran sheep and cattle. Maria had been asked to do a welfare check. A family member, Marcus Holloway's sister in Denver, had called the sheriff's office that morning. She'd been trying to reach her brother since Thursday afternoon. No answer. Phone lines were working fine according to the phone company. Someone just wasn't picking up. Probably unplugged the phone to enjoy the holiday, her sergeant had said. But go check anyway. Make sure nobody had a heart attack over turkey. Maria pulled up to the ranch at 9:32 a.m. The main house was a sprawling single-story structure built in the 1940s and expanded over the decades. Wood siding, stone foundation, metal roof. Behind it sat a large barn, equipment sheds, sheep pens, and 3 small bunkhouses for seasonal workers. Everything looked normal, except for the silence. No dogs barking, no sheep bleating, no movement. Maria stepped out of her patrol car. The November wind cut across the valley, cold and sharp. She could see her breath. "Sheriff's Department," she called out. "Anyone home?" Nothing. She walked to the front door and knocked. "Mr. Holloway, this is Deputy Gonzalez. Your sister asked us to check on you." No response. She tried the door, unlocked. Maria pushed it open and stepped into the entryway. The house smelled like death and turkey. She'd been a deputy for 6 years. She knew that smell. "Sheriff's Department," she called again, hand moving to her service weapon. Silence. Maria moved down the hallway toward the main living area. The smell got stronger. She turned the corner into the dining room and stopped. 11 bodies. The dining table was set for 12. 11 seats were occupied. The bodies sat upright in their chairs, slumped forward or leaning back, positioned as if they'd simply fallen asleep during dinner. Plates of food sat in front of each person: turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce. Most of the food was untouched. Some of the bodies had forks still gripped in their hands. Deputy Gonzalez backed out of the room, hand over her mouth, and radioed for help. "This is Unit 7. I need backup at the Holloway Ranch, Highway 287, mile marker 34. Multiple casualties, possible homicide. Send everyone." The dispatcher's voice crackled back. "How many casualties?" Maria looked back at the dining room. "All of them. Sheriff Tom Bradford arrived with 4 deputies and 2 EMTs 47 minutes later. What they found was a crime scene that would haunt Wyoming law enforcement for decades. 11 victims, all family members or ranch employees, all dead for approximately 16 to 18 hours based on rigor mortis and body temperature. The victims. At the head of the table, Marcus Holloway, age 51, ranch owner, dead from a single gunshot wound to the head. A .357 revolver lay on the floor beside his chair. To his right, Dorothy Holloway, age 49, Marcus's wife, dead from poisoning and a gunshot wound to the chest. Next to Dorothy, Sarah Holloway, age 23, Marcus and Dorothy's daughter, dead from poisoning. Beside Sarah, Kevin Chen, age 25, Sarah's fiancé, dead from poisoning. Across the table, Thomas Holloway, age 28, Marcus's nephew, dead from poisoning. Next to Thomas, Rebecca Holloway, age 26, Thomas's wife, dead from poisoning. Beside Rebecca, Elena Vasquez, age 46, ranch cook and housekeeper, dead from poisoning. Next to Elena, David Marsh, age 54, ranch foreman, dead from a gunshot wound to the face. Beside David, Patricia Marsh, age 52, David's wife, dead from a gunshot wound to the chest. Next to Patricia, Robert Holloway, age 67, Marcus's uncle, dead from poisoning. At the far end, Margaret Holloway, age 64, Robert's wife, Marcus's aunt, dead from poisoning. One empty chair remained at the table. Marcus's sister, the one who'd called for the welfare check, had been invited but couldn't make it from Denver due to work. That empty chair saved her life. The initial investigation took 6 hours. Crime scene techs photographed everything. The medical examiner examined each body. Deputies searched the house and outbuildings. What they found told a horrific story. In the kitchen, a bottle of rat poison, empty. Residue matched the chemical compound found in the food. In Marcus's bedroom, a cassette tape recorder, on the bed, with a tape inside labeled Confession, November 22, 1984. In the barn, blood spatter, shell casings, signs of a struggle. 2 of the victims, David and Patricia Marsh, had been killed here first, then moved to the dining room table. In Marcus's truck, a shovel, lime, plastic sheeting. He'd been planning to bury the bodies. Sheriff Bradford found letters in Marcus's desk drawer, love letters, dozens of them, between Dorothy Holloway and David Marsh, the ranch foreman. The affair had been going on for 15 years, and Marcus had only discovered it 3 weeks earlier. Before we go further into what Marcus did, we need to understand who these people were, not just names on a medical examiner's report. Real people with real lives, families who loved them, dreams that died with them. Marcus James Holloway, age 51. Marcus was born in 1933, the second son of James and Ruth Holloway. The family had owned Shepherd's Valley Ranch since 1922, when Marcus's grandfather purchased the land from the federal government for $2 an acre. Growing up, Marcus was the quiet one. His older brother, William, was charismatic, outgoing, the natural heir to the ranch. But William died in Korea in 1952. Marcus, just 19, became the son who had to stay, who had to take over. He never went to college, never left Wyoming. He worked the ranch with his father until 1962, when James Holloway died of a heart attack. At 29, Marcus inherited 5,000 acres and 800 head of sheep. He was lonely, isolated, desperate for a wife. When Dorothy Brennan moved to Rawlins, Wyoming to teach elementary school, he met her at a church social. She was beautiful, educated, from Denver. He couldn't believe she was interested in him. They married in June 1970. Marcus thought he'd won the lottery. He had no idea he'd married a woman still in love with someone else. For 14 years, Marcus worked the ranch. He woke at 4 a.m., worked until dark, fell into bed exhausted. He provided, he built, he expanded the operation. By 1984, Shepherd's Valley Ranch was worth over $1 million. But he'd spent those years blind. Until October 31st, 1984, when he found the letters hidden in Dorothy's closet. Dorothy Brennan Holloway, age 49. Dorothy grew up in Denver, the daughter of a dentist and a homemaker. She was smart, popular, beautiful. She graduated from the University of Colorado with a teaching degree in 1965. In high school, she dated David Marsh. They were the perfect couple. Everyone assumed they'd get married. But David's family had no money. Dorothy's parents wanted better for her. They pressured her to break up with him. She did in 1963, right before college. David stayed in Wyoming, became a ranch hand, eventually married Patricia, a local girl. Dorothy moved away, became a teacher, dated other men, but she never forgot David. In 1969, she moved to Rawlins, Wyoming to teach. She told herself it was for the job, but Rawlins was 20 miles from the ranch where David worked. They reconnected within a month. The affair began immediately. When Marcus Holloway started courting her, Dorothy saw an opportunity. Marcus owned land, had money, could provide stability. He married him, but she never stopped seeing David. For 15 years, she lived a double life. Letters found in her belongings showed the depth of the affair. She and David met twice a week, always in the barn or at motels in Rawlins. They talked about running away together. They never did. Both were too afraid of losing what they had: Marcus's money, Patricia's loyalty, their reputations. Dorothy's last letter to David, dated November 15, 1984, read, "Marcus suspects nothing. He's so absorbed in the ranch he barely looks at me anymore. Sometimes I wish he'd find out, just so it would be over, but I'm too much of a coward to tell him. I love you. I've always loved you. I'm sorry we didn't have the courage to choose each other when we were young. Now we're trapped. D." 1 week later, Marcus found the letters. David Marsh, age 54. David Marsh was born and raised in Carbon County. His father was a ranch hand. His mother cleaned houses. They had nothing. David was smart, athletic, popular in high school. He and Dorothy Brennan were voted cutest couple in 1963. But Dorothy's parents made it clear David wasn't good enough for their daughter. The breakup devastated him. David never went to college. He worked ranches across Wyoming. In 1968, he married Patricia, a quiet girl from Rawlins who worshipped him. When Dorothy moved back to Wyoming in 1969, David couldn't stay away. The affair consumed him. He became Marcus Holloway's foreman in 1972, managing the day-to-day operations of Shepherd's Valley Ranch. Marcus trusted him completely. David used that trust to betray him for 12 years. Co-workers described David as competent but distant. He did his job well, but never socialized. He and Patricia had no children. She'd tried for years, undergone fertility treatments. Nothing worked. In letters to Dorothy, David wrote, "Patricia is a good woman. She doesn't deserve this, but I don't love her. I've never loved her. I married her because I thought I'd never see you again. If I could go back, I'd wait. I'd wait forever for you." David Marsh would never get the chance to make that choice. Patricia Marsh, age 52. Patricia grew up poor in Rawlins. She met David Marsh at a church dance in 1967. He was handsome, charming, sad about something he wouldn't talk about. She fell in love immediately. They married in 1968. Patricia thought she'd saved him from his sadness. She hadn't. For 16 years, Patricia tried to be the perfect wife. She cooked his favorite meals, kept the house immaculate, never complained when he worked late. She never knew he was working late with Dorothy. Patricia was beloved in her community. She volunteered at the library, taught Sunday school, knitted blankets for every baby born in Carbon County. Friends described her as kind, gentle, naive. She had no idea her husband was in love with someone else. On Thanksgiving Day 1984, Patricia brought homemade pies to the Holloway ranch, pumpkin and apple. She'd baked them the night before, wanting everything to be perfect. She never knew why Marcus killed her. Sarah Holloway, age 23. Sarah was Marcus and Dorothy's only child. She had Dorothy's dark hair and dark eyes, Dorothy's smile, Dorothy's intelligence. Whether she had Marcus's blood was a question that tormented him after finding the letters. Sarah was a senior at the University of Wyoming, studying veterinary medicine. She was engaged to Kevin Chen, a fellow student. They planned to marry in June 1985. Sarah loved her father. She wrote him letters every week from college. She called every Sunday. She wanted to come back to Wyoming after graduation, maybe set up a vet practice in Rawlins, help with the ranch animals. She had no idea her mother was having an affair, no idea her father was planning murder. Sarah came home for Thanksgiving excited to introduce Kevin to her extended family. She wanted her father's blessing for the wedding. She wanted to talk about the future. She never got the chance. Kevin Chen, age 25. Kevin was a grad student at UW, studying large animal medicine. He met Sarah in a physiology class in 1982. They'd been together ever since. Kevin's parents had immigrated from Taiwan in 1955. His father owned a restaurant in Cheyenne. Kevin was the first in his family to attend graduate school. He was brilliant, kind, soft-spoken. Sarah's friends said he treated her like gold. Kevin had met Marcus twice before Thanksgiving 1984. Both times, Marcus had been polite but distant. Kevin assumed it was normal father of the bride wariness. Kevin brought a bottle of wine to Thanksgiving dinner, French, expensive. He wanted to impress Marcus. He never got to open it. Thomas Holloway, age 28. Thomas was Marcus's nephew, the son of Marcus's deceased older brother, William. After William died in Korea, Thomas's mother remarried and moved to California, but Thomas stayed connected to the Wyoming family. He visited every summer. He loved the ranch. In 1980, Thomas moved back to Wyoming permanently. He worked on Shepherd's Valley Ranch as a ranch hand, learning the business. Marcus treated him like the son he'd never had. Thomas married Rebecca in 1983. They were trying for their first child. Thomas idolized Marcus, saw him as a father figure, trusted him completely. Rebecca Holloway, age 26. Rebecca grew up in Laramie, daughter of a mechanic. She met Thomas at a rodeo in 1981. She was sweet, optimistic, excited about starting a family. She'd just found out she was pregnant, 6 weeks along. She was planning to tell the family at Thanksgiving dinner. She never got the chance. Elena Vasquez, age 46. Elena had worked for the Holloway family for 18 years. She cooked, cleaned, helped manage the household. She was part of the family. Elena was a widow. Her husband died in a mining accident in 1972. She had 3 children, all grown, living in Colorado and Texas. She sent money home every month. Elena had been preparing the Thanksgiving meal for 3 days. The turkey, the sides, the pies. She wanted everything perfect. She had no role in the affair, no connection to the betrayal. She was simply in the wrong place. Robert Holloway, age 67. Robert was Marcus's uncle, James Holloway's younger brother. He'd worked the ranch his entire life, alongside his brother, then alongside Marcus. Robert was a quiet man, never married until late in life. Met Margaret, a widow, in 1975. They'd been married 9 years. Robert loved Thanksgiving. It was his favorite holiday. He always carved the turkey. This year, Marcus insisted on doing it. Robert didn't argue. Margaret Holloway, age 64. Margaret was Robert's second wife. She'd lost her first husband to cancer in 1973. She'd been alone for years before meeting Robert. She was grateful for the Holloway family, for being included, for not being alone on holidays. She brought flowers to the Thanksgiving table, yellow chrysanthemums, her favorite. They were still in a vase when police found her body. 11 people, some guilty of betrayal, most completely innocent, all dead. Because one man decided that if he couldn't have the life he thought he'd built, no one would. I found the letters on Halloween, October 31st, 1984. Appropriate, right? The Day of Ghosts. Because that's what my whole life became, a ghost. Something that never really existed. I'd been looking for Dorothy's winter coat. She'd asked me to get it from her closet. I pulled it down from the shelf, and a shoebox fell. Letters spilled out. Dozens of them. I started reading. At first, I didn't understand. The first letter I picked up said, "I can still taste you. I think about Tuesday in the barn every night. I love you. D." I thought it was from me. For a second, I thought Dorothy had saved love letters I'd written her. Then I saw the date, last week, and I've never written my wife a love letter, not once in 14 years. I read another, and then I understood. My wife, the woman I'd built this ranch for, the woman I'd given everything to, she'd been fucking David Marsh for 15 years, in my barn, on my property, while I worked. I sat on the closet floor for 3 hours reading those letters, and I made a decision. I was going to kill them, all of them. Marcus's confession tape details 3 weeks of meticulous planning. He didn't act on impulse, didn't lash out in rage. He planned. Week 1, surveillance. Marcus started watching Dorothy and David. He pretended nothing was wrong, kissed Dorothy goodnight, had coffee with David in the mornings to discuss ranch work. But he watched. On Tuesday, November 6th, he saw them. He'd told Dorothy he was driving to Rawlins for supplies. Instead, he parked his truck a mile down the road and walked back. At 2:15 p.m., David Marsh's truck pulled up to the barn. Dorothy walked out of the house 10 minutes later. Marcus watched them through the barn window. In his confession, Marcus describes what he saw in clinical detail. We won't repeat it here, but he ends that section by saying, Marcus on tape, "I watched for 37 minutes, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just clarity. They had to die, both of them, and anyone who might defend them, anyone who might say I was wrong." Week 2, the method. Marcus decided poison would be the primary method. Quiet, controllable. He could kill multiple people at once. He researched rat poison, specifically strychnine-based compounds, available at any farm supply store, lethal to humans in doses of 50 to 100 milligrams. On November 10th, Marcus drove to Casper, 90 miles away, and purchased rat poison from a store where no one knew him. He tested it on 3 sheep. They died within 45 minutes. Week 3, the date. Marcus chose Thanksgiving. Why? Marcus on tape. Because Thanksgiving is about family, about gratitude, about coming together. And I wanted them all together. I wanted everyone who benefited from this ranch, from my work, my money, my blindness. I wanted them all at one table. And then I wanted them to die there, together, the way families should. Marcus's invited everyone personally, his daughter Sarah and her fiancé, his nephew Thomas and his wife Rebecca, his uncle Robert and Robert's wife Margaret, David and Patricia Marsh, of course, Dorothy's friend Elena, the cook. 12 people total. He'd planned for his sister to attend as well, but she canceled 2 days before. That was fine, Marcus decided. 11 was enough. The confession tape details every step of Marcus's plan. November 21st, Marcus prepares the poison. He measures out doses, tests concentrations. He wants death to be slow enough that no one realizes what's happening until it's too late, but fast enough that they can't call for help. November 22nd, 6 a.m., Thanksgiving Day begins. Marcus wakes early. He's calm. He makes coffee. He kisses Dorothy good morning. She has no idea this is her last day alive. 8 a.m., guests begin arriving. Sarah and Kevin drive in from Laramie. Thomas and Rebecca from their cabin on the property. Robert and Margaret from town. David and Patricia from their house a quarter-mile down the road. Everyone is cheerful, hugging, exchanging pleasantries. Marcus smiles, shakes hands, plays the gracious host. 10 a.m. Elena begins cooking in the kitchen. Dorothy helps. Margaret brings pies. Patricia brings rolls. Marcus watches Dorothy and David. They're careful not to look at each other too long, not to touch. They've practiced this deception for 15 years. They're good at it. 1 p.m. The turkey is ready. Marcus insists on carving it himself. Everyone gathers in the dining room. The table is set beautifully. Candles, Dorothy's good china, wine glasses, everything perfect. Marcus's tape describes the scene. Marcus on tape. They all looked so happy. Sarah was glowing, holding Kevin's hand. Rebecca was laughing at something Thomas said. Dorothy was smiling at me from across the table. That smile, the one I'd trusted for 14 years, the one that lied to me every single day. I carved the turkey, I made a toast. I said, I'm grateful for all of you, for family, for this ranch, for the life we've built together. Everyone raised their glasses, and then I served the food. 1:15 p.m. Marcus had poisoned specific dishes, not the turkey, not the wine, the mashed potatoes, the stuffing, the gravy. He'd calculated who would eat what based on years of Thanksgiving dinners. Dorothy always took extra mashed potatoes. Sarah loved stuffing. Thomas loaded his plate with gravy. Marcus served everyone personally, made sure each person got a poisoned portion. Then he sat down with his own plate, which had no poison, and began to eat. 1:30 p.m. 15 minutes in, Sarah complained of stomach cramps. "Too much wine on an empty stomach," Dorothy said. Then Rebecca felt nauseous, then Thomas. Within 5 minutes, 8 people were experiencing symptoms: cramping, nausea, difficulty breathing. Marcus watched. 1:47 p.m. Sarah vomited, then collapsed. Kevin jumped up to help her. He'd eaten less, taken smaller portions. He wasn't feeling sick yet. "Call 911, Kevin shouted. Marcus stood calmly and walked to where Kevin was kneeling beside Sarah, and he shot Kevin in the back of the head.
The tape recording from this moment is difficult to listen to. You can hear gunshots, screaming, Dorothy's voice, "Marcus, what are you doing?" Chairs scraping, bodies falling, Marcus breathing heavily, more gunshots. What happened next was reconstructed from the tape, forensic evidence, and the crime scene. Marcus shot Kevin first, 1 bullet to the head. Kevin died instantly. Thomas tried to run. He made it 3 steps before collapsing from the poison. Marcus shot him in the chest. Robert stood up, trying to understand. "Marcus, please!" Marcus shot him in the face. Elena ran toward the kitchen. Marcus chased her, shot her in the back. Margaret was too weak to move. The poison had progressed too far. She was convulsing in her chair. Marcus shot her in the head. Patricia Marsh was screaming, begging Marcus to stop. He shot her in the chest, then shot her again. Rebecca had fallen to the floor, crawling toward the door. Marcus watched her struggle for 30 seconds, then shot her. Sarah was dying from the poison, barely conscious. Marcus knelt beside his daughter, if she was his daughter, and put the gun to her temple. Dorothy, gasping from the poison, screamed, "She's yours! Marcus, I swear, she's yours!" Marcus paused, then pulled the trigger. 1:54 p.m., 8 people dead, 3 still alive. Marcus, Dorothy, and David Marsh. David had eaten almost nothing. He'd been too nervous about meeting Sarah's fiancé, hadn't had much appetite. When the shooting started, David ran. He made it to the barn. Marcus's tape continues. Marcus, on tape. David ran to the barn. Of course he did. That's where they fucked. That's where they built their lies. So that's where I killed him. I took my time walking out there. I knew he couldn't leave. I'd disabled his distributor wires that morning, cut the distributor wires. He was trapped. I opened the barn door. He was hiding in the loft. I could hear him breathing. I said, "David, come down. Let's talk." He didn't answer. I said, "You fucked my wife for 15 years in this barn. The least you can do is face me now." He came down, slowly, hands up. I've never seen a man look so afraid. I asked him one question. "Did you love her?" He said yes. I asked him another. "Is Sarah mine?" He said he didn't know. That's when I shot him. First in the stomach. I wanted him to hurt. Then, after he fell, I shot him in the face, just like I shot Robert, just like I shot Kevin. I dragged his body back to the house, sat him at the table, where he'd sat so many times before, eating food my wife cooked, smiling at me, lying. Marcus, on tape. Then I went back for Dorothy. Dorothy Holloway was still alive when Marcus returned to the dining room. The poison had nearly killed her, but she was conscious, barely. She was slumped in her chair, looking at the bodies around her, her daughter, her lover, her friends. Marcus sat down across from her. Marcus, on tape. I asked her why. That's all I wanted to know. Why? Why marry me? Why stay with me? Why 15 years of lies? She could barely speak. The poison was shutting her down, but she whispered, "I was afraid. I was afraid to choose." I said, "Choose what?" She said, "Love or safety, David or you. I wanted both. I'm sorry." That's all she said. "I'm sorry." I shot her in the chest. Then I shot her again, and she was gone. Marcus, on tape. It's 2:47 p.m. now. Everyone's dead, all 11 of them. I'm sitting at the table with their bodies. I'm going to sit here for a while. I'm going to record everything I'm thinking, and then, when I'm ready, I'm going to shoot myself. But first, I want to explain. I want whoever finds this tape to understand. I'm not crazy. I'm not insane. I'm just a man who gave everything to people who didn't deserve it. And I took it back.
Marcus Holloway sat at that table with 11 bodies for 19 hours. From 2:47 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day until 9:47 a.m. Friday morning. The entire time, the tape recorder ran. What he recorded was part confession, part manifesto, part psychological unraveling. Investigators would later describe it as one of the most disturbing audio documents in American criminal history. Here are excerpts, arranged chronologically. 3:15 p.m., Thanksgiving Day. Marcus on tape. I'm looking at Sarah, at her face, trying to see David in her, or me. I can't tell. She has Dorothy's eyes, Dorothy's nose, but her hands look like mine, rough, calloused. She worked on the ranch every summer. She loved it here. If she's David's daughter, she never knew. She died thinking I was her father. She died loving me. If she's mine, then I killed my own child. I don't know which is worse. Sound of Marcus sobbing. 4:30 p.m. The food's getting cold. The turkey's still on the platter. All this food Elena cooked. She worked so hard. She didn't deserve this. None of them deserved this. Except Dorothy, except David. But the rest, they were just here, just in the way. That makes me a monster, doesn't it? I know that. I'm not stupid. I know what I am. 6 p.m. It's getting dark. I should turn on lights, but I don't want to. I want to sit in the dark with them. I keep thinking about the last time we had a good Thanksgiving. Maybe 1975? Sarah was 14. She helped me fix the fence that week. We worked side by side for 3 days. She told me she wanted to be a vet, take care of ranch animals. I was so proud. Was Dorothy with David that week? Probably. Was I happy because I didn't know, or was I just blind? Does it matter now? 8 p.m. I've been thinking about the order I killed them. Who died first? Kevin. He was innocent. He was just a kid in love with Sarah. He had nothing to do with this. I shot him in the head before he even knew what was happening. Is that mercy or cowardice? I think about how his parents will feel. Immigrants who worked their whole lives so their son could go to college, and he came to Wyoming for Thanksgiving and got murdered. There's no justice in that. But there's no justice in any of this. 10:30 p.m. I was going to bury them. That was the plan. I have a backhoe. I was going to dig a mass grave out past the South Ridge, bury all of them, pour lime, cover it up, report them missing. Dorothy went to Denver with Sarah for the weekend. David took Patricia on vacation. Thomas and Rebecca went to California. Everyone else went home. I was alone on the ranch. Tragic accident. Maybe a car crash. Bodies never found. I could have gotten away with it. I had 3 days before anyone would check on me. But sitting here, looking at them, I don't want to hide it. I want people to know.
I want people to know what Dorothy did, what David did, what they made me do. So I won't bury them. I'll let the police find them exactly like this, at the table, on Thanksgiving. The perfect family. Harsh laugh. 12 a.m., November 23rd, Friday. It's midnight. It's not Thanksgiving anymore. They've been dead for 10 hours. I should be feeling something more. Guilt, horror, regret. But I just feel empty. Like I've been empty for 15 years and I'm only now noticing. Dorothy hollowed me out one lie at a time, and I let her. That's the part I can't forgive. Not her betrayal, my blindness. How did I not see it? How did I trust so completely? I thought love meant trust. I thought marriage meant faith. I was wrong.
I almost shot myself an hour ago. Held the gun to my head, finger on the trigger. But I couldn't do it. Not because I'm afraid to die, I'm ready to die, but because I haven't finished the tape, haven't explained everything. Once I finish talking, I'll do it. I promise. 4 a.m. I've been thinking about the ranch, about what happens to it after I'm gone. My sister will inherit it, I guess. She's the only family left. She didn't come to Thanksgiving. She's alive because of work, a sales conference in Denver. She'll never know how lucky she is. Will she sell the ranch? Probably. She never liked Wyoming, never liked the isolation. Some family from out of state will buy it. They'll tear down this house, build something new, modern. They'll never know what happened here. Or maybe they will. Maybe people will tell them. That's where Marcus Holloway killed his family on Thanksgiving. That's where 11 people died. And they'll leave, and no one will ever want this land again. Good. 6 a.m. Sun's coming up. The bodies smell now. Not bad yet, but it's starting. I should have shot myself last night. Why am I still here? What am I waiting for? 7:30 a.m. I found Dorothy's wedding ring on the floor, must have fallen off when she was convulsing. I picked it up, read the inscription. I had it engraved, Forever, M+D, June 1970. Forever. What a joke. I'm putting it back on her finger. She should die wearing it. It's the least I can do. 8:45 a.m. I hear a car. Someone's coming up the road. This is it. I'm going to end the tape now. I'm going to do what I should have done last night. To whoever's listening to this, I'm sorry you had to find them like this. I'm sorry you have to see what I've done. But I'm not sorry I did it. Dorothy and David destroyed my life. I destroyed theirs. That's fair. That's justice. Tell my sister I loved her. Tell her this wasn't her fault. Tell Sarah, if she can hear me, I loved her. Whether she was mine or not, I loved her. Goodbye. Too late. Deputy Maria Gonzalez found Marcus Holloway's body at 9:47 a.m., November 23, 1984. He was slumped forward in his chair at the head of the table, the .357 revolver on the floor beside him, a single gunshot wound to his right temple. Time of death, approximately 9:15 a.m., 32 minutes before Gonzalez arrived. If she'd been 10 minutes earlier, she might have saved him. Whether that would have been mercy or tragedy is a question investigators debated for years. The investigation into the Shepherd's Valley massacre took 4 months. Despite Marcus's confession tape, prosecutors wanted to be thorough. Forensic evidence. Autopsies confirmed. 8 victims died from strychnine poisoning. Dorothy, Sarah, Thomas, Rebecca, Elena, Robert, Margaret, and Patricia showed elevated poison levels. 3 victims died from gunshot wounds before the poison could kill them. Kevin, David, who'd eaten almost nothing. All gunshots matched Marcus's .357 revolver. Gunshot residue on Marcus's hands confirmed he fired the weapon. Time of death for all victims except Marcus was between 1:30 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. on November 22nd. The letters. Investigators cataloged 147 letters between Dorothy and David, dating from 1969 to November 1984. The letters confirmed. The affair began in 1969, before both were married to others. It continued for 15 years. Dorothy and David met regularly at the ranch, local motels, and David's house when Patricia was at work. Both expressed guilt, but neither could end the affair. Neither planned to leave their spouses. DNA paternity testing. In 1984, DNA paternity testing was not widely available. However, investigators used blood typing to attempt to determine Sarah's paternity. Results were inconclusive. Sarah's blood type, O positive, was compatible with both Marcus, O positive, and David, A positive, as Dorothy was AB negative. The question of whether Sarah was Marcus's biological daughter was never definitively answered. The Carbon County District Attorney closed the case on March 15, 1985. Official determination: murder-suicide. Marcus Holloway murdered 11 people, then killed himself. No trial, no arrests, nothing to prosecute. The case was closed, but the aftermath was just beginning. The victims' families. The 11 victims left behind devastated families. Kevin Chen's parents flew from Taiwan to claim his son's body. They'd been so proud of him, their brilliant, kind son. At his funeral, his mother collapsed. She never fully recovered. She died 2 years later. Friends said she died of a broken heart. Thomas and Rebecca's family learned that Rebecca had been 6 weeks pregnant. They'd lost not just 2 people, but 3. Elena Vasquez's 3 children filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Marcus's estate, arguing she was an innocent employee killed in the crossfire of a domestic dispute. They settled for $75,000. Robert and Margaret's extended family held a joint funeral in Rawlins. 70 people attended. Marcus's sister did not. Patricia Marsh's sister gave a statement to the press. Patricia was the kindest person I've ever known. She loved David completely. She never knew he didn't love her back. She died confused and terrified. Marcus Holloway didn't just kill her body, he killed her memory of her own marriage. That's unforgivable. David Marsh's family refused to comment publicly. His parents attended a private burial and never spoke about him again. Dorothy's parents in Denver were destroyed. They'd lost their only child. At her funeral, Dorothy's mother said, "I don't know if my daughter was a good person. I don't know if she deserved what happened, but no one deserves to die like that. No one." Sarah's friends from the University of Wyoming held a memorial. Over 200 students attended. They remembered her as brilliant, kind, passionate about animals. They had no idea about her mother's affair. To them, Sarah was simply a victim of her father's madness.
Marcus's sister,
Janet Holloway inherited the ranch. She never set foot on the property again. She hired a property management company to handle everything remotely. In April 1985, she listed the ranch for sale. It didn't sell for 2 years. When it finally sold in 1987, it was to a development company that planned to subdivide the land, but local protests and zoning issues killed the project. The ranch sat abandoned. In 1991, the main house burned down. Arson was suspected, but never proven. Locals whispered that someone from the victims' families did it. No one was ever charged. The land was eventually sold to the federal government in 1995 and incorporated into the Medicine Bow National Forest. Today, you can still find the foundation of the Holloway house if you know where to look. Concrete slabs, overgrown with sagebrush, rusted farm equipment. A barn collapsed under its own weight. Nothing remains of the family who lived there, or the people who died there. Public reaction. The Shepherd's Valley Massacre became national news in late November 1984. Headlines: Wyoming rancher kills 11 on Thanksgiving Day, then himself. 15-year affair leads to Thanksgiving Day massacre. Tapes reveal Marcus's calculated revenge. The story fascinated and horrified America. Talk shows debated, was Marcus a monster or a victim pushed too far? Some people, mostly men, sympathized with Marcus. His wife destroyed him, they said. He snapped. Others, mostly women, argued that no betrayal justified mass murder. He killed innocent people, children. He's evil. Dr. Robert Hare, a criminal psychology expert, analyzed the confession tape and concluded Marcus Holloway exhibited signs of narcissistic collapse. When his self-image as a hard-working, faithful husband was destroyed by discovering the affair, his entire identity shattered. Rather than seek therapy or divorce, he chose annihilation. This is consistent with familicide cases where the perpetrator sees family members as extensions of himself. If his life is over, theirs must be too. The case was referenced in academic papers, true crime books, and documentary films for decades. But what's often forgotten in the sensationalism is this: 11 people died. Real people, with families, dreams, futures. They died because one man decided his pain mattered more than their lives.
There were no survivors of the Shepherd's Valley Massacre. But there were people left behind, people who carried the weight of that day for the rest of their lives. Janet Holloway, Marcus's sister. Janet was 52 when her brother murdered 11 people. She'd been scheduled to attend Thanksgiving dinner, but canceled at the last minute due to work. If she'd gone, she would have died with them. Janet never forgave herself for being relieved. In interviews years later, she said, "I should feel lucky, I know that, but I don't. I feel guilty. Guilty that I'm alive. Guilty that I wasn't there to stop him. Guilty that I never saw the signs." Marcus called me 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, said he was thinking about the future. I thought he meant retirement, ranch planning. I didn't know he meant murder. Could I have stopped him if I'd asked the right questions, if I'd visited more often? I'll never know. I sold the ranch because I couldn't stand to inherit anything from what he did. Blood money, all of it. I think about those 11 people every day. I never met Kevin. I'd only met Sarah's fiancé once, but I think about them, about their families, about the lives they should have had. And I think about Marcus, my little brother, the quiet kid who worked so hard, who never complained, who I thought I knew. I didn't know him at all. Janet Holloway died in 2019 at age 87. She never remarried, never had children. She spent her final years volunteering at domestic violence shelters, trying to atone for something that wasn't her fault. Deputy Maria Gonzalez. Maria was 28 when she discovered the bodies. She'd been a deputy for 6 years. She thought she'd seen everything: car accidents, hunting accidents, domestic violence, bar fights. She'd never seen anything like Shepherd's Valley. Maria stayed with the Carbon County Sheriff's Department for another 3 years, but the case haunted her. In interviews later, she described recurring nightmares. "I'd dream I was walking into that dining room again, but this time they were all alive, sitting at the table, eating, smiling. And then one by one they'd look at me, and their faces would decay, fall apart, until they looked like they did when I found them. I'd wake up screaming." It happened 3-4 times a week for years. Maria left law enforcement in 1987. She became a school counselor, working with at-risk teenagers. She's retired now, lives in Colorado. She agreed to an interview for a documentary in 2014, the 30th anniversary of the massacre. She said, "People always ask me what it was like to find them. They want details, gory details. But what I remember most isn't the bodies. It's the table, the food still laid out, the candles that had burned down to nothing, the normalcy of it. These people sat down to Thanksgiving dinner. They were probably talking about football, about Christmas plans, about normal family stuff. And then one of them decided to kill them all. That's what haunts me, not the violence, the betrayal. How do you trust anyone after that? How do you sit down at a family dinner and not wonder if someone's planning to poison you? It's been 30 years. I still can't eat Thanksgiving dinner with my family. I make excuses, work, travel, whatever. Because when I see a table full of people I love, all I see is Shepherd's Valley."
Sheriff Tom Bradford was 51 when the Shepherd's Valley case landed on his desk. He'd been Carbon County Sheriff for 12 years. He was planning to run for re-election in 1986. After the case, he didn't. Tom retired in 1985. He told reporters, "I don't have it in me anymore." The confession tape particularly affected him. "I listened to that tape 5 times, all 19 hours. I had to, it was evidence. Marcus Holloway's voice, it was so calm, so rational, like he was explaining how to fix a fence or brand cattle, not how he murdered his family." At one point on the tape, he talks about the weather, says it's a nice day, clear skies, good day for hunting. And he's sitting there with 11 corpses. That's when I realized Marcus wasn't insane. He didn't snap. He made a choice. A calculated, deliberate choice. And that's scarier than madness. Because madness you can understand. It's illness, it's chemistry. It's not the person's fault. But choice, evil choice, that's on purpose. Marcus Holloway knew what he was doing, and he did it anyway. That's the kind of evil I couldn't live with. Couldn't keep encountering in this job. So I quit. Tom Bradford died in 2008. He never spoke publicly about the case again after his retirement. The community. Carbon County, Wyoming, population 21,000, was devastated. Everyone knew someone who died or knew someone who knew someone. The Marsh family had lived in the county for generations. Dorothy Holloway had taught at the local elementary school. Elena Vasquez had cleaned half the houses in Rollins. Funerals were held over 2 weeks in late November and early December 1984. The entire town seemed to be in mourning. Local churches held community grief counseling sessions. Psychologists volunteered their time. The high school brought in trauma counselors. But nothing helped. A darkness settled over Carbon County that never fully lifted. In the years following the massacre, the divorce rate in Carbon County increased by 23%. Reports of domestic violence rose 31%. 3 copycat murder-suicides occurred in Wyoming between 1985 and 1987. Investigators noted perpetrators specifically referenced Marcus Holloway's case. Tourism to the area dropped significantly. The massacre became part of Wyoming's identity, the state where the Thanksgiving massacre happened. In 1994, 10 years after the massacre, a local journalist named Patricia Reeves investigated the long-term impact on Carbon County. Her article, 10 Years After, How Shepherd's Valley Changed Wyoming, included interviews with residents. Barbara Chen, librarian. We don't talk about it anymore, but it's always there, like a scar that never fully heals. Every Thanksgiving, people get quiet. Some families don't celebrate it at all now. They call it Black Thursday. I can't even look at a turkey without thinking about those people sitting at that table. Michael Torres, mechanic. My Aunt Elena died there. She was just doing her job, cooking Thanksgiving dinner, and Marcus Holloway shot her in the back. People sometimes ask me, do you blame Dorothy? Do you blame David Marsh for having the affair that set him off? No, I don't. Adults have affairs. It's wrong, it hurts people, but it happens. You know what doesn't happen? Mass murder. Marcus Holloway made a choice. He could have divorced Dorothy, could have fired David, could have walked away. But he decided 11 people needed to die. That's on him. Only him. Susan Harrington, teacher. I taught with Dorothy. We were friends, not close, but we had coffee together, talked about students, normal teacher stuff. After she died, people found out about the affair, and suddenly everyone had opinions. She deserved it. She pushed him too far. What did she expect? I wanted to scream at them. She didn't deserve to be poisoned and shot. Nobody deserves that. But people need someone to blame besides Marcus, because if Marcus is just evil, just a man who chose violence, then that means anyone could make that choice. Your husband, your brother, your friend. It's easier to blame Dorothy, to make her the villain, to say the affair caused it. But affairs don't cause murder. Murderers cause murder. Dorothy was a cheater. Marcus was a killer. Those aren't the same thing. 40 years have passed since the Shepherd's Valley massacre. Most of the people connected to the case are dead now, but the story hasn't faded. In 2004, a true crime author named Dennis Walters published a book about the case, Thanksgiving Betrayal: The Shepherd's Valley Massacre. The book spent 3 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. It included full transcripts of Marcus's confession tape, obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests, interviews with surviving family members, and psychological analysis. Critics praised the book for its thoroughness, but criticized it for sensationalism. One victim's family member said, "They're making money off our grief. Marcus is dead, Dorothy's dead, the story is over. Why won't people let it rest?" In 2014, a documentary film crew tried to make a movie about the case. They interviewed Janet Holloway, Deputy Maria Gonzalez, and several victims' family members. But funding fell through. The project was never completed. The raw footage sits in an archive at the University of Wyoming. In 2019, a Reddit thread titled "What's the most disturbing true crime case you've never heard of?" featured the Shepherd's Valley Massacre. Over 50,000 people commented. The top comment read, "I'm from Wyoming. My grandfather was one of the cops who responded. He never talked about it. Ever. But my grandmother told me that after he saw that dining room, 11 bodies at a Thanksgiving table, he came home and cried for 3 hours. She'd never seen him cry before. Not at funerals. Not at anything. He retired 2 years later. He said he couldn't do the job anymore. Couldn't see people at their worst. My grandfather died in 2002. At his funeral, one of his old cop buddies told me, Shepherd's Valley broke him. He was never the same after that. I asked what he meant. The buddy said, your grandfather used to believe people were basically good, that evil was rare, that most folks given a chance would do the right thing. Shepherd's Valley taught him that wasn't true, that ordinary people, ranchers, school teachers, family men could commit atrocities. That's a hard lesson to learn. Most people never recover from it. What do we take from the Shepherd's Valley Massacre? What lessons? What warnings? Some say it's a story about betrayal, about what happens when trust is destroyed. Others say it's about toxic masculinity, about men who see their families as property and react violently when control is lost. Still others say it's about isolation, about what happens when people live too far from community, from help, from perspective. But maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's just a story about choice. Marcus chose murder. Not because he was insane, not because he was provoked beyond reason, but because when faced with pain, he chose to inflict greater pain on others. Dorothy chose betrayal. David chose deception. Both are morally wrong, but neither chose murder. Only Marcus did that. And 11 innocent people paid the price for his choice. The Shepherd's Valley Ranch is gone now. The land is federal property, part of the Medicine Bow National Forest. Hikers sometimes wander through the area where the house once stood. Most don't know what happened there, but those who do say the place feels wrong, cold, empty, haunted. Maybe that's just psychology, the power of knowing a place's history. Or maybe some places hold on to violence, remember it, carry it. Either way, most people don't stay long. 11 people died on Thanksgiving Day, 1984. Dorothy Holloway betrayed her husband but didn't deserve to die for it. David Marsh made terrible choices but didn't deserve to be executed. Patricia Marsh, innocent, faithful, killed for being in the way. Sarah Holloway, young, brilliant, her father's victim. Kevin Chen, wrong place, wrong time, wrong family. Thomas Holloway, loyal to his uncle, it killed him. Rebecca Holloway, pregnant, hopeful, gone. Elena Vasquez, just doing her job, shot in the back. Robert Holloway, kind, quiet, killed by his own nephew. Margaret Holloway, grateful for family, family killed her. And Marcus Holloway himself, who chose murder over mercy, who destroyed 11 lives because his own life hurt. This was the Shepherd's Valley Massacre, the deadliest Thanksgiving in American history. A story of betrayal, revenge, and calculated evil. And a reminder that the people who love us can also destroy us,
if we let them. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence or thoughts of harming yourself or others, please reach out for help. National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 988. Crisis Text Line, text HOME to 741-741. This story is a work of fiction, inspired by real patterns of family annihilation cases and the psychology of revenge-motivated mass murder. All names, locations, and events have been created for this dramatization.